Sin is bad, but only when men do it, apparently. Or at least that's how it looks if you compare the way we talk about men's sin versus women's sin, like we did in the last video. Because when women sin, we kind of just don't talk about it at all, let alone do anything about it. If you compare the number of accountability programs, groups, apps, books, sermons, and all of that stuff we have directed at men's sin compared to women's, it's a joke. There's almost nothing. And younger guys today are starting to get frustrated with that because they are the ones who are often hurt by those sins. And they want accountability for women, just like there is for them. But we have collectively said no. But why? If we as Christians claim to know how destructive sin is and hate it as much as God does, why don't we ever seem to care when women are sinning? Well, like we mentioned last time, one reason is modern Christians don't seem to think that women do sin very much at all. And I understand why that feels intuitively correct. When men sin, it tends to be much more obvious. It's like an explosion. It's big, it's loud, it's very obviously harmful. It's a big attention-getting spike, and then it's over. When women sin, it tends to be more covert. It's a slow, steady simmering, hidden behind layers of subterfuge and plausible deniability to protect her innocent public image. And like the constant dripping that Proverbs mentions, a lot of the damages that women's sin often cause take years to manifest. So it's not always obvious how it's connected. But the real problem is, not only are women's sins hard to spot, we just don't look. With men, we study their sin, try to figure out every way that it might happen so we can stamp it out immediately. With women, we just cover our eyes and plug our ears. In fact, when anyone says anything vaguely critical of women, we instantly jump to their defense with shame, like, oh, obviously you just hate women, or deflections like, well, yeah, but men. So today, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something that's nearly forbidden in Christianese culture. We're going to examine women's behavior to see how they sin. We're not going to flinch. We're not going to look away at other things. We're going to stay focused on it, just like we do with men, and see what we find. Let's begin. In the words of Dr. House,
it's a basic truth of the human condition that everybody lies.
Everybody lies. But women have some unique ways of doing that. And to help us understand more about the specifics, I've asked my wife to give us some help.
The carpet.
Oh, you can do it. I believe in you.
Sorry, I'm very pregnant. I'm coming. Baby here.
Oh my goodness, I didn't realize this was a huge operation. Okay, so she actually wrote down a whole list of stuff. The first one that really stuck out to me was this one, grifting.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, so there are a lot of times where women will lie about their values or who they are in order to get the approval of specific people. In a lot of cases, that can be the approval of a man.
Yep. And as soon as you said this one, there's a story that came to my mind. I interviewed a guy recently. There was a woman he met at his very conservative Calvinist Christian church. And she claimed to be a Christian, said all the right stuff, claimed to be conservative, claimed to be straight. Turned out she was none of those things. What the guy said was when the ring came on, the mask came off. And she ended up being gay, cheated on him with 2 different women, tried to kill him 4 times. And then when he confronted her about being conservative, she said, oh, no, I never said I was conservative. I said my family was conservative. And his church did nothing. There was no church discipline, not a word to her. The church elders who had been telling him, hey, whatever you need, let us know. He said, hey, I need to find another place for her to stay because my life is in danger. They said, no, we're not going to help with that. They did nothing. So it's that type of behavior that makes guys scared to date even the most sweetest and conservative looking Christian women today, because it's almost impossible to tell the good ones apart from the bad ones. And they also know that their church isn't going to have their back if they pick wrong. You'd never hear this one being called out. And it kind of makes sense why, because if we were honest about how much women inside the church grift and pretend to be people that they're not, well, we would have to admit that guys aren't anywhere near as safe as we're advertising that they are. And we would actually have to start holding women accountable, which we really don't want to do. Next up, you have what we could call dishonest positivity or toxic positivity. The self-esteem movement is kind of a classic example of this. The sort of, hey, that's a great job, Timmy, when everybody knows it kind of sucked. he needed to be told that so he could improve it. You'll see like when a man comes in with a criticism of something and says, hey, this wasn't that great and you need to do something, or you can do stuff to improve it. A woman will step in and be like, oh no, that's so mean. You can't say that. You need to be nice. This is also where we get that sort of politically correct speech thing from.
The mindset behind that a lot of the time is, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. But the thing is, being overly critical and not being critical at all are two sides of the same coin that can cause equal amounts of problems. When a woman comes in and she seems to kind of like quell kind of calm the storm and be like, it's okay.
Everybody's just fine the way they are.
Yeah, everyone loves it. It's like a soothing balm. But it's like, okay, but guess what? Sometimes the devil does that too.
Oof.
Sometimes the devil says there's nothing wrong.
Whoa, man.
It's just fine.
Yeah.
Freak out about.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this, and it comes back to that desire that women have to look good to the community. Enforcing toxic positivity and no, you can't say anything if it's negative, only say positive things, is a way to make it look to the community like you're the good one. You're the nice one. You're the one that makes everybody feel good. It also helps to regulate the emotions of the community, which can be calming for her. Because if there are heightened, tense emotions in a group, that could introduce chaos, which could put her in danger. So it makes sense that women might want to keep everything light, keep everything positive, and keep the emotions soft. Next thing was, this is a good one, sabotage. So giving intentionally bad advice, things like untruthful praise. This is where women start to weaponize that toxic positivity against other people.
I specifically wrote down to get an upper hand on people, because here's the thing, a lot of these behaviors, women don't do them consciously, but there's a goal there.
Yeah, there's that story where researchers found that female hairdressers will cut a pretty girl's hair a few inches shorter than an average woman's hair.
One of the biggest examples of this is the body positivity movement.
Yep.
You'll have them looking at women that are very, frankly, overweight. She's like, well, she's the ugly friend. She's less of a threat to me if she stays like that.
Oh, yeah. There's the other one you mentioned.
Oh, yeah, girl, you're the prize, not him. I've heard that one a lot. And the reason why I say that it's sabotage is because they're often deliberately going out of their way to ignore their friend's sin.
Yeah.
And even if they don't intend to sabotage, anytime you ignore somebody's sin, that is a form of sabotage that is going on in their life.
And I think, now is probably a good time to just pause and talk about why women especially are drawn to that kind of lie, that type of positivity lie. Reputation management, like we've talked about this a little bit before on the channel, huge for women, because being the weaker vessel, as the Bible puts it, they're going to be the more vulnerable ones. So they're going to rely on the community for protection and provision more than men. But their instincts also know that in order to get access to that protection, the community has to like them. If she looks like she's gonna be a harm to the community, well, they might not want her around. They might push her out. And if she's on the outside, she's incredibly vulnerable and at risk. And by the way, this probably doesn't make sense in our current climate and our current culture, because we live in the safest world that there has ever been. But her instincts don't come from that. They're from a time when, if you were a woman who was all by yourself, you died. Like, you did not survive a harsh winter on your own.
It was biology.
Yeah, that's why women are obsessed with looking good and seeming innocent at all times. She needs everyone to see her as a benefit. That's also why women's sins tend to center more around community and relationships. In a woman's world, if she can make another person look bad, she can get them ostracized from the community where they will be more vulnerable. That's also why women tend to hide a lot of their sin behind all kinds of layers and degrees of separation to maintain plausible deniability. Men don't care as much if people see their sin because they know that they can defend themselves. Women need people to not see it. When you look at it that way, you start to notice that women actually lie a lot. And as men, we tend to let them get away with it too, because we feel like by letting that slide, we're protecting her image. And by protecting her image, we're protecting her.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't realize is that when a woman is allowed to get away with lying, eventually she's no longer sensitive to the conviction of the Holy Spirit and she can't correct herself. And then eventually it gets to a point where she's so far removed from what God has called her to be that at that point her soul is in danger. But people don't think of it that way. They immediately think of her physical and present need on this side of eternity, which is she needs to be kept safe.
Yeah.
When it's like, okay, but here's the thing. Jesus said, if you try to preserve your life, you will lose it. That's exactly what's happening when women lie or sin in general, and we let them get away with it. It's putting them in danger.
There was a thing you said to me. When pastors and church leaders act as if men are the real sinners and that women don't really do much, they think that they're protecting women. But what they're actually doing is they're depriving those women of the full effect of the gospel.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that we look at as like, well, that's just kind of what women do is no, it's not as small a deal as we make it out to be. Because even if it's not this like big bad boom explosion of a sin like it is for men, it is still poisoning their souls and potentially pulling them away from the Lord and could harm their eternal salvation. And I think that segues really well into the next thing that you said, just downplaying and minimizing stuff that women do. There was something that I noticed in the book that we just read, My Dear Hemlock. One of the things that Tilly said was that women will reduce their sin during a confession by about 30%. Probably a bit more than that. And you'll see that kind of downplaying and minimizing all over the place. I just did it the one time. It's not that big of a deal. Or it didn't hurt anybody that she knows of. Or I didn't intend for anybody to get hurt. The biggest one that I hear all the time, men and women say this, is, well, that's just what women do. That's just what they're like. You know, you can't do anything about that.
It's the female equivalent of boys will be boys.
Yeah. We absolutely do that. In church, we do not accept that as an answer for the boys.
No.
And we make that clear to them. With women, we do just say girls will be girls. They're kind of just going to do a certain level of lying and manipulating.
You need to tell them the story about the girl who
the
football game.
Oh, yeah. So I was dating this girl. This was wild. We had been dating for about a month, and she decided that it would be fine to flash her boobs to a whole stadium full of high schoolers during their graduation party.
Oh, it was graduation. I thought it was a football game.
It was their graduation party. And of course, it was from the other side of the football field. So she was like downplaying it and like being like, oh, well, it was not a big deal because they probably really couldn't see anything because I was kind of far away. Not long ways, other side. You know, it was the halfway across that. So they saw. But she was downplaying it like, oh, it's just one thing, one time. And they probably didn't see anything anyway. And what was wild was the pastors at my church who wanted us to be dating also tried to downplay it to me and just be like, you know, she's young and young women just do stuff like that sometimes. And, you know, if you want to get married, you're just going to have to accept that stuff like that's going to happen and just move on. And I was like, okay, maybe if she showed some contrition and like acknowledgement that that was not an okay thing to do. She was not apologetic at all. She was flabbergasted that I thought it was a big deal. Like, she was like, why is this a problem for you? And had no remorse for it whatsoever. I was like, no, that's not a person I can marry. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we hide behind this sort of just, well, that's just what women do. And that ends up being one of the biggest reasons why we don't end up holding women accountable for any of this stuff.
And another thing too that is very common is women using their trauma to downplay the things that they're doing. Someone will ask them, why did you do insert terrible thing here. And she'll say, I can say this because I used to do this. Well, you know, I went through this thing when I was a kid, and I guess it just brought me back to that moment, and the situation just triggered it, and I couldn't control myself. Like that triggered language to kind of wiggle out of it.
I like this thing that you wrote down. It's like where women will try to seem like the small, innocent creature that was backed into a corner, and so I had no choice but to do it. I'm just a baby.
It's the weaker sex card.
Yeah.
Which is really ironic because feminists try to insist that women and men are exactly the same, but the second it can serve a purpose in her getting away with a behavior, oh, here comes I'm the weaker sex card. I had no choice. You can't get mad at me.
Yeah.
The tears, which we'll also talk about.
Oh yeah, we'll get to tears. Yeah, and then there's sort of just reframing her behavior in kind of a positive light.
I was just kidding, you know I love you.
Yeah.
You know you love me.
Yeah. Crap tests. What I have previously called worthiness tests. Ladies need to know if the man that they're with or that they want to be with is mentally tough, because they need to know if the guy's actually going to be able to take care of her and protect her. If a man can easily be pulled out of his frame for the conversation, then how much easier can dangerous people pull him out and knock him off course? Trouble is, women can't see that kind of mental toughness from the outside, so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do stuff that creates artificial drama or that pushes his buttons to try to see how he reacts, right? They're shaking the snow globe to see what gets stirred up.
The thing is, a lot of the time it's not intentional, but again, it's biology. I've seen this, is when a woman will be overtly flirtatious in front of their date or their partner or even their spouse because they want to let them know, I have options, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why that's a crap test is because two of these responses will get her will give her the ick, right? The first one is he gives in and he does get really jealous, right? In which case she just like, red flag, right? Which is like, honey, what did you expect him to do? Or the second one is similar to like the insecurity thing where he's just like, oh, I guess I'm not.
Yeah, there was actually a girl that I dated who did that exact thing. She intentionally flirted with other guys in front of me. And she later told me that, yeah, I just wanted to see what you would do. She was like totally honest about it.
It's just awful. Even if like her agenda at the end of it was like, I just want to test your toughness, that's still deceptive. That's not okay.
Yeah, it's still not honest. You're you're doing things that you don't actually believe in. You're pushing for things that you don't actually want, or you're getting upset about things or pushing his buttons in ways that are disrespectful. That's the other part of it, is like, it's not honest, and it's also not a respectful way to learn what you need to learn about him. There are other ways to do it. Find them. Just watch the way that he handles other people.
Yeah.
You don't have to create artificial drama.
Yeah.
Our favorite, false tears.
This is very popular on social media.
Yeah.
Vague posting. I want to be worthy of somebody's love, even
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're a boyfriend.
Yeah, a lot of it's like the sort of help me, I'm under attack type of thing. I think it was Michael Foster described it in one of his books as women know that men have this hero instinct in us. We want to be the knight in shining armor that slays the dragon and defends the damsel in distress, even if the thing that's harassing them is the truth.
If it's not the hero complex, it's just the fact that she knows that crying makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And people are gonna try to get her to stop crying.
It creates a tension that she knows other people will want to step in and resolve. I think it's Aristotle or Plato or one of those guys who was just like, trust not a woman when she weeps, for it's her nature to weep when she wants her will. Yeah, people be knowing that for 3,000 years. And we don't stop them because we want to be that hero. So those are the sort of dishonest sins that we tend to overlook with women. What makes these kind of tough though is that basically zero women think they're being dishonest when they do this stuff because it feels real. They're not intentionally trying to lie. They're reacting to a feeling, an instinct that's nagging at them. And the feeling is the most real thing in her world. So she doesn't think she's lying. So when she's doing a crap test or turning on the tears or whatever it is, it doesn't feel false. It doesn't feel like a lie to her. It feels totally genuine. This is one of the most difficult things to call women out on because they just don't think that they lie. The thing to remember though is that even if it feels real, it it doesn't matter. If it's out of alignment with objective truth or God's word, that's what makes it dishonest. And that's what matters.
Scripture is also pretty clear that saying, I didn't know, isn't an excuse for sin. That ignorance, while it's understandable, right, is not something that you should stay ignorant of because it's comfortable. What I need to do is I need to go back to God's word and see, is this really a characteristic befitting of a person of God, specifically a woman of God? And if it's not, which none of these things are that we talked about, then there needs to be some self-evaluation, because scripture is pretty clear that God makes those things plain to us and that no one has an excuse.
Yeah. Next up, envy. When a man is envious, when he's coveting things, he looks at his buddy's golf clubs and is like, ooh, those are better than mine. He's lusting after the actual thing. When a woman gets envious, she doesn't care about the thing, she cares about what the thing means. She doesn't want the stuff, she wants the status. Status has always been hugely important for a woman's survival, being the weaker sex. So nearly everything to women is a status game. Even when men play status games, they're typically not even doing it for themselves. Those guys are trying to get access to those women. And we know this because, if you see guys who don't care about what women think, they don't care about status either. These are the guys who will be perfectly fine with just a mattress, no bed frame sitting on the floor, a pile of clothes in the corner, and the PS5, and that's all they have to their name. And girls are like, how do men live like this? It's because they don't care what you think. So that means that when women do envy, it looks a little different.
One way that women can express their envy is by disparaging the stuff that other people have. For example, a few of the things that you might hear a woman say or that women might say to each other is, oh my gosh, I remember hearing once a story from a girl who, she was just like, oh my gosh, I just got engaged. And she showed her friend, and her friend was like, oh, that's nice. It's not 10 carats, but I mean, it's still really pretty though, right? So stuff like that.
At least she had one.
At least she got one. Or, this one. Her husband, I don't know about him.
Yeah, he seems
a little bit. He seems off.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they say it. Yeah.
That's such a diss.
Yeah, he seems, Yeah.
I don't know, but I know.
I know.
Yeah. Envy plays out on social media.
The socials.
Yeah.
She looks at what her friends have got on their feeds or whatever influencer she's following. She looks at the stuff that they've got, and then she starts getting anxious about it. And that's primarily what contributes to the negging of her husband or her boyfriend wanting more.
Nagging or negging? Probably both.
I think it's nag. I don't know. I've heard negging before.
Negging is a different term.
Is it?
Negging is a thing where it's just it is the tearing the other person down.
So it's nagging and negging. That was one step short of being racist.
Leave it in.
That's another thing too. Women will sabotage their own marriages to get out of it because there's something else that they want.
Yeah, that is peak envy behavior.
Yeah.
Is, you know what? This other thing that this other person has is so much better than what I have. I just gotta go get it. So they'll go ruin their own marriage and then go ruin another person's marriage by stealing somebody else's husband.
And then the church doesn't say nothing because, was the husband abusive? What's he doing?
He wasn't doing enough.
He wasn't doing enough. That's a big one. If she's not just disparaging, she is straight up trying to ruin their reputation by gossiping about them. Because then if people are seeing that person that has what she wants in a negative light, then there's a little bit more room for everyone to covet her instead. So, yeah.
Envy, very closely related to our next genre of sin. Vengeance.
Oh gosh.
Forget them. Justice. One of the biggest ways that women get vengeance on men, on people in general, is false accusations. Women will falsely accuse people, usually men, in order to destroy their reputation and destroy their lives along with it. There's a study done by the US Air Force which found that about 60% of SA accusations made by women are false and are most often motivated by spite or desire for revenge. If a man wants revenge, he will just go straight to you and punch you in the face. Women, being, again, more vulnerable, can't necessarily do that, so they'll wait you out. they will wait for years. They will hold a list of grudges against you, and they will wait for exactly the moment when you're weakest, and they will destroy what everyone else thinks about you. They'll lie to do it. Doesn't matter how it has to happen in her mind. She will end you. There's a funny video. I'll see if I can find it and put it in the edit. There's this video of this woman accusing a mailman of stalking her. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah. Yes.
Stop stalking me, right? Don't ever stalk me again.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
You know, Christian women do this too. It's just more covert. A lot of this stuff is just hitting. It's women hitting people where it would hurt them the most.
Yeah, and for Christian women, it's not necessarily as overt as, you
They're
know,
committing a crime.
or yeah, digging her keys into the side of his pretty little souped up 4-wheel drive. There was another guy that I interviewed who talked about how this one girl was showing interest in him. They worked at a Christian organization together. And he was like, well, let's hang out. Let's go out somewhere and talk. And she freaked out for some reason, even though she was the one who was interested in him. And she ended up basically saying to the rest of the staff that he made her feel uncomfortable and got him kicked out of his shift where he actually knew people, and he had to basically lose all of his friends at work and start over, you know, with a different shift where he didn't know anybody. She did this multiple times, and the staff knew that she wasn't telling the truth about any of her like accusations of his weirdness, and they didn't care. They just accommodated her, and it ruined his time at this job.
And that's just her being petty. These days, pettiness is seen as something that's kind of cute. And kind of quirky. Like, she's just a little bit petty. Or like, there's literally this one song that goes like, P-E-T-T-Y, petty. Yeah, I'm petty. Like,
Yeah,
it's treated as a
fun,
quirk.
yeah.
But it's not fun.
Well, that comes back to the whole minimizing and downplaying thing. Most of what women do today that is actually a sin is normalized and downplayed by our culture, and we end up doing that as Christians as well, to the point that, yeah, of course, we don't think women sin. Why would we feel like we need to hold women accountable when we don't actually count any of their sins as sins anymore? But that does segue into things like you mentioned indirect punishments. Things like silent treatment is a kind of a cliche trope of that. One that you mentioned that I thought was really interesting was encouraging other people to engage in the silent treatment to shut a person out of a group.
Yes. Growing up, even like a Christian school, if another girl, they felt like they spited them, even if they didn't, even if it was, ironically enough, something as simple as calling a friend out on their poor behavior, suddenly that friend would corral all of the other girls to pretend that she didn't exist. For a woman, that is devastating. And they know that. And so they try to hit other women exactly where it hurts, right in the reputation, right in the social standing, right in the right in the safety, right in the bubble.
Right in the safety. Oh,
Yeah.
you got me.
So I've seen this happen, is where married women will flirt with other men or make comments about other men in front of their husband in order to make their husband feel bad about something. One example that I heard before was, wow, he looks really nice in that suit. Wait, no, I was just saying. Like, you know,
Plausible deniability.
plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It does make a little more sense why I've sort of gotten the heebie-jeebies around some married Christian women sometimes who laugh at my jokes a little bit louder than their husband's jokes and are just a little bit too nice to me. I've had that sense ever since my older brother, his first wife, would quite obviously flirt with me while they were married. I didn't think anything of it at the time because I was very young, very naive. I thought, they're two Christians, they're married, she's just being nice. There was one thing she said one time at a Christmas party. Someone said something like, wow, you seem to really like Matt a lot, and you know, why didn't you just marry him? And she said, well, I hadn't met him yet. I was like, oh, that's a red flag.
Your brother?
Yeah, they were divorced about a year later. She cheated on him, monkey branched, and you know, she already had another man. But after that, I've had this sort of sensitivity to Christian wives being a little bit too extra friendly with me.
Or even if they're not, sometimes it's just a matter of, my husband did something that I didn't like. oh, there's a man here. There's an opportunity. Let me give my husband the hint that I'm not very happy with him and I have options.
Yeah. In general, basically, women will do things that look innocent on the surface, but they know it will make someone else suffer if they do it. When you were first talking to me about this, at first I thought it was a bit outlandish and a little bit weird. I was like, are girls really like that subterfugal? But then I remembered this one girl. I was interested in her. She was not interested in me at all. And so I made kind of a deal with her that, hey, I'm just not going to ask you out. It's fine, whatever. Because we had to be around each other. It was a church group thing. And so they're like, try to be friends and all of that. But then there was another girl that was very clearly interested in me. Then girl number one starts hanging around me a lot more, moving in close to me, sitting next to me, doing all kinds of stuff, trying to initiate conversations with me while this other girl's around. And it ended up kind of scaring that other girl away because she thought there was something going on between the two of us. And I told that to another girl later, and she was like, oh, she girl gamed you. And I was like, wait, what? There's a term for this? Yeah, she girl gamed you. That's just, yeah, we do that. That was a total revelation for me.
You're sitting there like,
what?
Why?
Why? I don't know exactly what a reason was.
That sounds a lot to me like, for a lot of women, when a man approaches them and she doesn't think that he's attractive, she sees that as an insult without him even saying anything. He won't say anything, he won't do anything. But in her mind, she's like, how dare he approach me?
Oh, so that could be what it was.
Yeah, and
it's just
so-
like vengeance for an unattractive man approaching you.
Yeah. So in her mind, there's a good chance that she thought she was a victim of your unattractiveness. Yeah.
Ow! I'm gonna block him from this other girl because
Yeah.
he thought he was good enough for me. or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
It's like,
Who knows?
guys.
The overarching theme through all of these is that it is, of course, hidden behind layers of plausible deniability, as we've been seeing, so that when someone tries to confront her about her revenge, she can step back and say, what do you mean?
No, what do you mean?
I'm not punishing anyone. I wasn't doing that for any reason at all. I'm a squeaky clean little angel. I had no idea that was gonna hurt you. Of course, she knew. And like I tell that story to this other girl, and she immediately, oh yeah, I know exactly what she was doing. They can spot it when the other girls are doing it. But there's something you said the other day. If you want to reveal a woman's sin, look at what she wanted to happen and look at what ended up happening and subtract everything else in between. Basically, just don't look at what anyone else did. Look at what she wanted, what she did, and then what the result was. And you will see how she was responsible for it. There's that story of Herodias in the New Testament where Herod takes this woman, Herodias, to be his wife, even though that was his brother's wife. He was not supposed to do that. John the Baptist kept calling him out for that.
Yeah.
He didn't really care. He thought John was an interesting dude and would listen to him. Herodias hated him, and she wanted revenge. What she did was, well, it would seem that she sent her daughter to go dance in front of Herod while he was probably sloshed. And then Herod makes this stupid promise like, oh, I'll give you up to half of my kingdom. And her daughter comes back to mom and says, what should I ask for? Give me the head of John the Baptist. Now Herod's trapped. Oh shoot. I have to honor my word in front of all these people. And Herodias kept her hands clean. She wasn't the one that gave the order to take his head off. But again, if you subtract all the steps between what she wanted, revenge against John, what she wanted was what she got.
That's how a lot of women actually get convicted in court, because there's so much plausible deniability. That is exactly how the courts have to look at the situation in order to get her behind bars.
There's another one that might fit in with the whole revenge theme. I wasn't sure where to put this one, but it's when women push their husbands until they snap at them.
This is also in the tears category.
Yeah, it's one of the ways that women end up getting their way. They will annoy their husband, nag him, push him, insult him, cut him down. Stuff that's small enough that it never rises to the level of like, oh, that's egregious and somebody needs to do something about it. Until eventually, it just, like that constant dripping, it builds up until he can't take it anymore and he snaps. Yeah, she might do this with like, you don't do enough of this around the house, criticizing his choices and his behaviors or emasculating him in public, making rules for him that she herself would never follow if he made it for her. Like, oh, you want to buy this particular thing? You got to ask me first.
I got to check with the boss.
Yeah, I don't understand that one quite as much. I even have friends that will say this, like, yeah, I kind of want to get this thing, but I don't know if my wife will let me. What do you mean? You don't know if your wife will let you?
There's something to be said about talking about if it's wise, budget-wise.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like, okay, but does your wife always talk to you when she goes to the mall or when she buys something off of Amazon? Probably not.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, yeah, we'll get into this more, but there's a lot of women out there who it's just like, it's an Amazon package a day. But the man has to ask permission if he wants to buy anything. That doesn't make sense to me. Or you got to check with me before you hang out with the boys. Like,
That's a huge red flag to me.
The added bonus of this strategy is that because it's so incremental, like she pushes and here and a little bit there, what she's doing doesn't appear to be a serious sin. It's just under the radar enough that nobody ever feels like it should, it's just not worth making a fuss about it.
Yeah.
When that frustration builds up over time and the man finally gets sick of it and he snaps, it's usually gotten to the point where he explodes. Can sometimes do stuff that you shouldn't do. And again, that's that same theme with men's sin versus women's sin. With men, it's big, it's loud, it's explosive, and it's done. With women, it's usually that slow, simmering, drip here, drip there, Chinese water torture until he can't take it anymore.
That's why you really need to take it with a grain of salt. Anytime a woman tells you a story about how poorly she was treated by a man, there's a very good chance it wasn't out of nowhere. There's stuff happening behind the scenes that she's not going to let you in on.
If she doesn't want to tell the whole story, then there's part of the story that will make her look bad, and she knows it.
And she knows that, yeah.
One of the big advantages for doing that is that she can use that to get out of a relationship or even a marriage that she doesn't want to be a part of. She can send out that slow dripping over time until she gets the man to explode and overreact, and then say, oh, look at that, he's abusive, I need to get out of this for my safety. It gets her out of the relationship and back into the game where she can find something better, but it does it in a way where her own conscience feels clear. It also protects her reputation. So that whole scenario, if a woman wants to get out, it's a win-win-win for her. The last form of punishment, punishing people for calling them out on their sin. Not only do women enforce toxic positivity with others, they demand it for themselves. They punish people who say anything negative about them, even if it's true or even if it's a rebuke of sin, doesn't matter. Again, that's because of that instinctive survival reaction of, I need to keep my reputation clean. If there's an accusation made against me, that would tarnish my image and that might get me pushed outside. So it's like women have a tougher time receiving rebukes because it feels like it's a threat to her life. And it's a real test of her faith and her trust in God. One that we don't actually explain to women, so they're not aware that that's a test that's happening. And it's not one that we press into and encourage them to push past and genuinely trust God with.
I just find it ironic because often their response to being held accountable for their sin is more overtly sinful than what they were called out for in the first place. I can count on one hand the number of times I called out a man for his poor behavior and he threatened me, he got really aggressive with me or anything like that, right? One hand. But I cannot count the number of times I told a woman that she needed to smarten up about something and I got a rape threat, I got an assault threat, I got so many different types of threats. It can be absolutely terrifying, the things that women will conjure up in their head because they're upset that you called out their poor behavior.
Yeah, they get captured by that survival instinct to keep their image and their reputation clean. I had an idea that like once we started looking at women's sin, we would find some stuff. But like when you say stuff like that, it's like that gives me chills. women resist this part of discipleship much harder than men do. They bite back when you try to hold them accountable for things to a degree that men typically don't. Men will oftentimes just take it on the chin. That's why accountability groups and stuff are decently respectful and orderly. Men go along with it. There's this idea that, well, we as men don't really need to do anything to hold women accountable. That's something that women need to do for each other. The problem is that when you just leave women to their own devices, one woman will try to hold the others accountable in a scriptural way, and the one receiving it will rally the rest of the group to shadow ban the one who's doing it from the group.
Yep.
And so you end up ostracized and you're on the outside. And the other girls know that that's going to happen. They know that once they get labeled as, oh, she's the one that's not nice to us, she says stuff that doesn't make us feel very good, they are not going to be a part of that group anymore. Not in any real sense. You know, there might be a sort of surface level interaction that they'll have to keep up appearances, but the actual deep connection will be gone. And women don't want that. And so they often are they're just not going to be direct and keep each other accountable.
Sometimes it can even be like a covert threat of like, if the pastor does stick up and be like, okay, you need to stop doing this. It's like, well, okay, maybe I'll reconsider my tithe then. Then the church gets freaked out about calling them out. But another thing that I noticed too is this one is such a pet peeve of mine, is when someone calls a woman out on her sin and she says, well, men do that too.
Yeah.
I know that, but I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah. We've mentioned that a few times on this channel. It's either you're a terrible person, how dare you obviously hate women, shaming and all that, or it's a deflection. Yeah, but men. There's all types of tactics and methods that women have to try to get the attention off of themselves. Christians are vaguely aware that this stuff happens. We just sort of watch it happen and say nothing. That part of it is distressing to me. We should probably do something about that. Hey guys, this episode ended up going a little long, so we're cutting it in half right here, and we'll put out the other half in a couple weeks, so subscribe and check back if you want to see that. For now, go watch another video or get out of here. Peace.